Hi there ladies, it's Susan. I have our second bundle to go card for the Petal palette bundle that we started in February. Today we're going to do some heat embossing on glossy paper. Then we're going to color our image with sponge daubers, but there's a couple other ways you can do that I'll talk about. And then we're going to put the whole thing together. Okay, so today we are using Old Olive, So Saffron, and Rose Red as our color choices. So let's just go ahead and get started. Okay, so when you get your kit, you will have a Whisper White card base, an envelope, and then you'll have some mounting layers pre-cut for you in the Old Olive and the Rose Red. Okay. Then you're going to have 2 pieces of glossy paper, which we're going to do our stamping and embossing on. And then you're going to have 2 more pieces of Rose Red and Old Olive to make our tag and our trim. Okay? And we're using the Pretty Label Punch, this one, to make our tag. But if you don't have this one, I'm sure one of your other punches will probably work for you. So don't worry about that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. First thing we're going to do is do our heat emboss. So I embossed my images in clear. If you don't have clear, you could emboss it in any other color you want. But let's just go ahead and get stamping. So I stamped mine about 4 times on my paper. So we're just going to ink up our stamp. Now, glossy paper is a little bit slippery when you stamp, so make sure you press down and lift straight up, because your stamp will slide, if you allow it, along your paper. Okay, and as you can see, my Versamark is not totally clean, but it will get the job done. Okay, so I just I'm turning my image a little bit to fit my paper as I go. Let's see, I don't want that much space. Yeah, I guess this time I'll just do 3. So however you make your image fit on there is up to you. Alright, I'm going to close up the Versamark. Alright, so then I have my tray here that I keep my embossed powder in. So now you're just going to put your embossed powder on your Versamark, shake it all around, and then tap off the extra. Looks like I have something extra in there as well, so we'll see how that comes out. Alright, now we need to heat emboss. So I'm going to bring my heat tool in. Gets a little loud, remember, but it should go pretty quickly. So let's just go ahead and get this heat embossed. Remember to keep your fingers out of the heat stream so you don't burn yourself. And I just kind of follow my image around as it melts. It's good to have a nice bright light so you can see when it's turning shiny. We're on the last set of roses here. Okay, let's give that a check. Make sure I don't have any powder. Oh, I think I need to heat that a little more on this edge. think we're good. So now I'm going to, I'm just going to go ahead and leave that piece on there. Dust the extra dust off my workspace. Okay, so now you have some choices. So I'm going to do it today with daubers and my ink pads. But if you don't have daubers, or if you don't like the effect of daubers, you could use a blend marker, the Stampin' blender, and use the ink from the covers of your pads. Okay, so I'm going to open these up. And if you don't want to do the blender pen option, you can also just use straight markers to color this image as well. Okay, so I've done all three on a sample here that I'm going to show you. So this is the one I did with just straight marker. Okay, so I just colored the images where I wanted it and went around. This one I did with the daubers, which is what I'm going to do. And then this one I did with the blender pen, and I picked up the ink and colored in. So it's similar to doing the marker, but your colors are a little bit lighter and fade out a little bit. Okay. So, and when you do the dauber, you kind of get that sponged, spotty look, which is kind of what I was going for. But you can use any of those three ways of applying ink to get your image colored. The other thing you're going to want to have is a tissue or a paper towel, so that as you change colors, you can dab on top of the embossed image, because your ink isn't going to color the embossed image, but you will leave excess ink on top, so you want to be able to get that off. You can also flip it over and just rub it on your scrap pad. So let's go ahead and get started with our coloring. I'm going to zoom in so you can see as I work a little bit better. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to start with the rose red. And because I'm using the daubers, I'm actually going to use the ink pad itself. So I just dab my dauber onto my ink pad, so I transfer the ink over, and then I'm just going to lightly dab on top of my roses. Okay, and see how it looks a little bit spotty? Now, the harder I dab, the more ink is going to transfer, and I'm going to let my color go a little bit outside of the image, because I'm looking for that watercolored effect. Okay, so I'm actually going to let it be outside of the line. Okay, and then you can see when I take this and go over the top, it's going to pull that extra ink off. Now the other thing you can do with the dauber is, if you want to press down, it's kind of like using a marker, only it's a little more muted because it's a big fat surface. But you can rub it if you want to apply ink. Like that, you know, smooth it out a little bit. Or you could do a combination of daubing and smoothing. So however you feel comfortable applying your ink color is what you should do. Okay, one more set and a little more ink on my sponge. So you can see as I'm adding color, it's helping show off those roses that we stamped and embossed. Okay, so there's our rose red. So let me put this over and just give that a rub. So I just want to pull the extra ink off because I don't want it to mix with my next color. Okay, so my next color is going to be the green. I'm using Old Olive, and we're going to do the leaves. Now the leaves are a little bit tiny, but by allowing your ink to go outside your image a little bit, that helps with this a bit. And when you're nice up close to that pink, you want your color to kind of blend, right? Not blend, but like meet it. You don't want to leave a lot of extra white space in there. You want to fill in all of your color. We are going to go back with the So Saffron last and fill in any white space we do have. But since So Saffron is the lightest color, we don't want to have to get it in too close to the other two colors because it could pick it up and kind of make a messy color for you. So you're just going to work around your image until you have colored it, applied color the way you want to. And if you put it on light and then you want to go back, you just put more ink right on top. So if you want to start out light, you can. Alright, a little more green, and then we're going to move on to the So Saffron. Alright, so this time I could do the same thing with the tissue, but I'm going to show you. I can just flip it over and rub it on my scrap paper here, and that's going to blot that ink off as well. It'll transfer it over. See how it transferred it lightly over? Okay, so now let's move on to our So Saffron, and we're just going to go back and we're going to fill in the white space. So it can be lighter or darker, it can fade in and out. You don't have to worry about getting a nice even, like consistent yellow from spot to spot. It can fade to light to dark and you'll be fine. We're just trying to fill in the white space so that we don't have a lot of white on our card. By not having a lot of white on our card, it's going to make the embossed image pop when we're done. So see, I'm just working up into where the other colors ended. Just filling in. Alright, I'm happy with that. So now let me flip that one over and rub off the extra yellow. Because you also don't want to transfer that ink to your fingers when you're working, so you want to make sure it's dry. Okay? Alright, so there's that. Okay, so now let's put our card together. Let me zoom the camera back out for you. You can see my workspace. Here we go. Alright, so now you can bring in your layering pieces. So I'm going to snail this one down to the rose red. Okay. And I chose to snail the green one down to the front of my card, and then I'm going to do a dimensional layer between the green and the pink. So just add a little bit of pop in between the layers. Okay, so there's the body of our card. Okay, now we need to make our tag pieces. So you have this piece that you can run through your Big Shot. Okay. Now I did run this with wax paper through the Big Shot, and I also used my die brush, if you have a die brush, to then get all those pieces out. But you can use your poker tool. And look, I still have one little piece in there. There. All gone. So you're going to get this piece for trim. And then, if you have the classic label punch, you can punch out a rose red. And then what I did with the rose red is I cut it in half with my paper snips. Okay, and that's going to allow us to expand it a little bit bigger than the next one that we trim out. So just take your paper snips and cut it in half. Okay, so we've got those two pieces. Now we need to stamp our greeting. I'm stamping thank you today. So I'm going to stamp in rose red. Now again, remember when you stamp, don't let your stamp slide on the paper because this is glossy. So you want to go straight down and straight up. And then I'm going to add some of these extra little leaves in the green. Okay, I'm stamping close to, but not over the top of our word. Alright, and let that dry a little bit because that ink will stay wet for a few minutes. Let's go ahead and do our pieces down. So I'm going to put glue dots on kind of the center section of this green. Okay, and because our tag's going over the top, I just want them in close. And let's see, where do I want the tag on this one? More of that dust. So that one I put on the side. This one I think I'm going to put maybe more in the middle. So however you put your images on, decide where you want to put your tag. Alright, so now let's go ahead and punch this one out. So you want to center your thank you. And just pop that out. And I'm going to put snail on the back, on the top and on the bottom, and then I'm just going to fit it onto these two half pieces. So hold the pink one down and just place the top one over. Remember, don't smudge your ink. And then do the same thing with the bottom piece. Okay, once you get that tacked down, you can flip it over and give it a good press. And then go ahead and add some dimensionals to the back. And that's going to go right over the top of your green trim. Just like that. Okay? Then if you want to do a little bit of stamping on the inside of your card, you could come back in with those same smaller petals and just give yourself a little bit of a climbing border there if you want. Okay, I think I'm going to do that on the other side too. So there's some inside. And then on your envelope, I did the same thing. I kind of put one going up and I put one going down, just to kind of add a little bit of color to the outside of that project. So there you go. There is our second bundle to go for the Petal palette bundle. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. All the instructions are with your packet, so you should be able to follow along. If you have any questions, just call me, alright, or email me and let me know you're having a trouble. But I think this one will be pretty easy. If for some reason you don't have a heat tool, which I can't think you don't have a heat tool, almost everybody does, but if you don't and you stamp with Versamark on glossy paper and then let it dry, then if you ink over just the dry Versamark, you'll get a ghosting effect, which is very similar to what you get with the Heat Emboss Resist. So you could try it either way. Alright everybody, I hope you enjoyed this version of our Stamp Together with Bundle to Go, and I'll see you next month. Thanks. Bye.